This is the accompanying practical application lecture to our lecture on organizational communication and leadership. I'm going to connect this topic, organizational communication and leadership, to the real-world challenge of climate change. Basically, how does leadership impact our response to climate change? As mentioned in our primary lecture, leadership is a very popular topic, and there are different ways to approach understanding leadership. First, let's look at a leader-centric approach. Using a leader-centric approach, we argue that there are different communication practices a leader may enact to influence climate change outcomes in their followers. For instance, the current president of the United States, President Biden, uses rhetoric and other communication strategies to support climate change action, whereas the former president of the US, President Trump, used rhetoric and other communication practices to deny climate change. These different ways of enacting communication as leaders yielded different outcomes. Biden attempting to accelerate our responses, Trump attempting to halt our responses. Now, looking at leadership and climate change from a follower-centric perspective is a counterpoint and provides an interesting new angle. Basically, we as followers have a prototype for what a leader is supposed to be or look like or act like, which comes from our socially constructed ideas of what a good leader is from the many communications we receive. So let's say in the capitalistic Western world, we may think of good business leaders, our business leader prototype, as being sharks, aggressive, strategic, making money, maybe even ruthless. Investors invest in and people buy into business leaders who fit this prototype, thus allowing them the space to grow and improving their chances for success. This type of leader may not be interested in an aggressively pro-climate change stance because that might not be the best way to make money right now. Or consider, given the capitalistic Western social construction of a climate change supporter, kind of a hippie, a tree hugger, maybe someone who's soft or sensitive, someone who might not be interested in making profit, which is quite the opposite prototype to the business leader prototype. We may not then commonly allow for those two to overlap. These may sound like outdated prototypes of a business leader or a climate change supporter, but I assure you they are still alive and well in the collective minds of many. And many communications, many signs, symbols, interactions, messages that we receive today in this context continue to reinforce them. Knowing this, we might consider that we can challenge the prototype we've constructed in the capitalistic Western world of what makes a good leader based on our society's constant stream of communication. For instance, what type of qualities do we really value in a leader? For instance, a leader who is looking to the long term, looking to our long-term well-being, would respond to climate change. So if we want our organizational leaders to take action on climate change, we could try to consciously adjust our ideas of what makes a good leader based on what might be an actual reflection of our values. Say that value is what I just described, an orientation to the long term, then perhaps we would try to change our internal prototype of, let's say, a successful business leader to someone who is wise and thoughtful, or someone who is deliberate and informed, or someone who has strong integrity. Now let's look at leadership in climate change through a critical lens. Leadership is power and control. And through this lens, leaders may be able to abuse power and control by allowing or encouraging environmental abuse and destruction with little to no accountability. Let's say a government leader is corrupt, for example, and wants money and wants to be reelected. So they take bribes or large donations from companies that want permission to do things that go against best practices for the environment. Or let's say that only certain types of leaders are allowed to lead because of socially constructed leadership prototypes, and there's little diversity within leadership. So many voices are silenced and don't get a spot at the table. Or maybe these leaders are all from the economic elite, so they've never felt the impact of climate change through crop failures or increased heat. Or lastly, a country who's a dominant world power, like the United States, changes its federal stance on climate change. And so maybe the country is communicating to the rest of the world that it's okay to have a half-hearted, inconsistent response. All right, So that's it for now. A few ways for us to think about climate change and organizational leadership and the way communication intermingle. Our next practical application lecture will relate to organizational communication and culture and how that also applies to climate change and the environment.